of a new journey. The goal is to read, especially nowadays with the allegedly horrible literacy rates. And honestly, I'm not above it because I do feel as though my vocabulary should be much better. Wow. But I really do enjoy reading, and I enjoy calming videos, and I really appreciate the lo-fi kind of quality and just overall relaxation. So I thought a little fireplace and candlelight, relaxing kind of environment would help, but also just a calming video, no crazy edits, no loud sounds, nothing abrasive, nothing fast-paced. Sorry if you have ADHD. Yeah, just a place for something simple and basic. So, do you prefer soft-spoken, a little bit of whispering? But I'd like to just read horror, thriller, mystery, that kind of thing. These are a few books that I enjoy. I'm pretty familiar with the Inferno, but I haven't actually read the book myself. I just know the stories. I know about the 9 circles. I watch the deep dives on YouTube. Not really the same as actually reading it yourself, so that'll be fun. And What Moves the Dead, I know I started it a while back. I'm pretty sure I got the book when they had a deal going on at Barnes & Noble. I believe if you purchased something at Starbucks, you could get it for free, I'm not sure, but got that then. Yeah, so these are both kind of horror, thriller, not really thriller actually, it's just more so a dark kind of topic, but yeah, nothing crazy, pretty basic over here. So this is kind of the introduction test run, if you will, but it'll be a good time. Chapter 1. The mushroom skills were the deep red color of severed muscle, the almost violet shade that contrasts so dreadfully with the pale pink of viscera. I had seen it any number of times in dead deer and dying soldiers, but it startled me to see it here. Perhaps it would have been so unsettling if the mushrooms had not looked so much like flesh. The caps were clammy, swollen beige, puffed up against the dark red gills. They grew out of the gaps in the stones of the tarn like tumors growing from diseased skin. I had a strong urge to step back from them, and an even stronger urge to poke them with a stick. I felt vaguely guilty about pausing in my trip to dismount and look at mushrooms, but I was tired. More importantly, my horse was tired. Madeline's letter had taken over a week to reach me, and no matter how urgently worded it had been, 5 minutes more or less would not matter. Hob, my horse, was grateful for the rest, but seemed annoyed by the surroundings. He looked at the grass and then up at me, indicating that this was not the quality to which he was accustomed. "You could have a drink," I said. "A small one, perhaps." We both looked into the water of the tarn. It lay dark and very still, reflecting the grotesque mushrooms and the limp gray edges along the edge of the shore. Could have been 5 feet deep, or 55. "Perhaps not," I said. I found that I didn't have much urge to drink the water either. Hop sighed in the manner of horses who find the world not to their liking and gazed off into the distance. I looked across the tarn to the house and sighed myself. It was not a promising sight. It was an old gloomy manor house in the old gloomy style, a stone monstrosity that the richest man in Europe would have hard-pressed to keep up. One wing had collapsed into a pile of stone and jutting rafters. Madeline lived there with her twin brother, Roderick Usher. It was nothing like the richest man in Europe. Even by Rivera's small, rather backward standards, the Ushers were gently impoverished. By the standards of the rest of Europe's nobility, they were as poor as church mice, and the house showed it. There were no gardens that I could see. I could smell a faint sweetness in the air, probably from something flowering in the grass, but it wasn't enough to dispel the sense of gloom. "I shouldn't touch that if I were you," called a voice behind me. I turned. Hop lifted his head, found the visitor as disappointing as the grass in the tarn, and dropped it again. She was, my mother would say, a woman of a certain age. In this case, that age was about 60. She was wearing men's boots and a tweed riding habit. They may have been predated the manor. She was tall and broad and had a gigantic hat that made her even taller and broader. She was carrying a notebook and a large feather knapsack. "Pardon," I said. "The mushroom," she said, stopping in front of me. Her accent was British, but not London. Somewhere off in the countryside, perhaps. "The mushroom, young." Her gaze swept down, touched the military pins on my jacket collar, and I saw a flash of recognition across her face. "Ah, no, recognition is the wrong term. Classification, rather." I waited to see if she would cut the conversation short or carry on. "I shouldn't touch if I were you, officer," she said again, pointing to the mushroom. I looked down at the stick in my hand, as if it belonged to someone else. "Ah, no? Are they poisonous?" She had a rubbery, mobile face. Her lips pursed together dramatically. "The stinking red gills. A fotida, not to be confused with a fotidissima, but that's not likely in this part of the world, is it?" "No," I guessed. "No. The fotissima are found in Africa. This one is endemic to this part of Europe. They aren't poisonous, exactly, but, well..." She put out her hand. I set my stick in it, bemused. Clearly a naturalist. The feeling of being classified made more sense now. I had been categorized, placed into the correct glade, and the proper courtesies could now be deployed, while we went on to more critical matters like mushroom taxonomy. "I suggest you hold your horse," she she said. And perhaps, who knows? Reaching into her knapsack, she fished out a handkerchief, held it to her nose, and then flicked at the stinking red gill mushroom with the very end of the stick. It was a very light tap indeed, but the mushroom's cap immediately bruised the same visceral red violet as the gills. A moment later, we were struck by an indescribable smell. Rotting flesh with a tongue-coating glaze of spoiled milk and, rather horribly, an undertone of fresh-baked bread. It wiped out any sweetness to the air and made my stomach lurch. Hop snorted and yanked at his reins. I didn't blame him. "Ah! That was a little one," said the woman of a certain age. "Not fully ripe yet, thank heavens. The big ones will knock your socks off and curl your hair." She set the stick down, keeping the handkerchief over her mouth with her free hand. Hence the stinking part of the common name. The red gill, I trust, is self-explanatory. "Vile," I said, holding my arm over my face. "Are you a mycologist, then?" I could not see her mouth through the handkerchief, but her eyebrows were wry. "An amateur in the affair supposedly befits my sex." She bit off each word, and we shared a look of weary understanding. England has no sworn soldiers, I am told, and even if it had, she might have chosen a different way. It was none of my business, as I was none of hers. We all make our own way in the world, or don't. Still, I could guess at the shape of some of the obstacles she had faced. "Professionally, I'm an illustrator," she said crisply, "but the study of fungi has intrigued me all my life." "And it brought you here?" Okay, so I didn't read much, but once again it was kind of a test trial. I believe the little mic I have is enough. Hopefully not too sensitive, but just enough. So we shall see, but hopefully it was somewhat relaxing and